In sports, everybody loves a good comeback story. I mean, there's nothing better. A team defying all the odds, proving everybody wrong, and then winning the greatest thing a team can win, a championship. In this case, I want to talk about the 2018-2019 Toronto Raptors and how they overcame undefiable odds in order to win their first championship in franchise history after major setbacks years before, and how it will go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, finals run in NBA history. For the last 3 to 4 years before the 2018-2019 season, the Toronto Raptors had very good NBA teams, usually finishing top 4 in the East and being able to make damage in the regular season, but there was one problem that got in their way for 3 straight seasons: LeBron James. Now, LeBron James, as we know, is one of the greatest players ever, but every time the Raptors faced LeBron in the playoffs, they would get embarrassed, earning them the infamous name LeBronto, the sense that LeBron owned the Toronto Raptors. Nothing could stop LeBron in these playoff runs, and it was very evident that the Toronto Raptors needed to make a change. The fans were becoming restless. Everybody wanted to see success. I mean, you're one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, but you're not making damage on the court. A lot of fans thought it was time for the Toronto Raptors to blow it up or initiate a rebuild and trade away their best talent in DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, and Jonas Valanciunas to get younger, acquire draft picks, and start from square one. It was very obvious this team was not going to win an NBA championship. Masai Ujiri, however, arguably the best GM in the NBA, decided to make a different change. He decided to go out and fire Coach of the Year from the previous season in Dwayne Casey, which is unheard of in the NBA. You usually don't fire someone who just won the most prestigious award a coach can win. But after not being able to get past LeBron, it was time for a change. Masai Ujiri decided to promote within in what would be one of the most important moves of this entire rebuild. He hired Nick Nurse. Promoted from assistant coach, Nick Nurse had a lot to prove. He had to prove that he could be a head coach in the NBA, and he had to prove that he had what it took to get this team over the hump, because Masai Ujiri wasn't ready for a rebuild. He was ready to retool and go back to the playoffs. And then it happened. The biggest move of this season for the Toronto Raptors finally happened. The Toronto Raptors decided to send away DeMar DeRozan, who spent his first 9 seasons in the NBA with the Toronto Raptors. He was traded alongside Jakob Poeltl in a 2019 first-round draft pick to the San Antonio Spurs for Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green.
I mean, it's just more questions you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about myself. I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
And Masai Ujiri took on a lot of risk with this trade. There were a couple of factors that went into this. Number one, the city, they felt like they didn't respect arguably the greatest Toronto Raptor up to this point. Kawhi Leonard also had some problems too. He was barely playing. He was out with a mysterious quad injury for a majority of the season before. He is on an expiring contract, which means that he could just leave right after the season. This was a major risk Ujiri made in order to try and bring a championship to the city of Toronto. Another major piece acquired in this trade was Danny Green, who would turn out to be way more important than fans initially thought. A 3-and-D player, Danny Green brought a lot of role-playing ability to a Toronto Raptors team that needed role players. The regular season continues on, and the Toronto Raptors are looking very good. But the team felt incomplete, and Masai Ujiri agreed. He knew he had to make one more big move in order to change the trajectory of this team. On February 7th of 2019, on the NBA trade deadline, the Memphis Grizzlies traded Marc Gasol to the Raptors for Jonas Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, and CJ Miles. This was a major trade because Marc Gasol was an older player, but if you don't know who Marc Gasol is, he is one of the better centers in NBA history. Him and his brother Pau, very good players in the NBA, and Masai Ujiri made this trade with the idea that they would have to face Giannis Antetokounmpo, like Joel Embiid, 2 of the most dominant big men to grace the NBA in the last 20 years. Ujiri tried to tool this team around the idea that they're going to make a deep playoff run and they need to be ready on all fronts to do damage. Another very important piece to this Toronto Raptors team was Pascal Siakam. Siakam would end up winning the Most Improved Player award this season and took to a new level in his career. He was drafted in the late first round. He was a raw player coming out of New Mexico, but no one could have imagined that he would be at this level at any point in his NBA career. With the elements of Kawhi Leonard and Marc Gasol being new additions to this team, with returning players like Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet putting in work as well, and role players like Danny Green, the Toronto Raptors would end up finishing 58-24. All this means now is that the Toronto Raptors have the scariest part of this journey, the NBA playoffs, and they would make a statement in the first round. They defeated the 7th seed Orlando Magic in 5 games after losing game 1 because DJ Augustin decided to beat Kobe Bryant for a game. But next is arguably the most important series in this entire run. The 76ers series is arguably one of the best 7-game series in NBA history, and in my opinion possesses the best Game 7 in NBA history. 90-90 with only a few seconds left. The Toronto Raptors have 1 shot remaining winning and have the ability to send themselves to the Eastern Conference Finals. Kawhi Leonard already has 39 points and is absolutely carrying this Raptors team. He had to be the man to send them to the next round. And what would happen next is the greatest moment I've ever watched with my own two eyes and one of the greatest shots in NBA history. Kawhi Leonard did this.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
And it was at that moment I fell to my knees inside of Dallas-Fort Worth Airport because I was coming back from vacation as that shot went in. The Toronto Raptors would then get the Milwaukee Bucks in a series in the Eastern Conference Finals. They would lose the first 2 games, but then put on a clinic in the next 4, edging out Milwaukee 4-2 in a 6-game series. And I'm very proud to say that I was there live for game number 5 of this series. But after beating the Milwaukee Bucks, their toughest test yet came when they had to face the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. Many fans believe that the Raptors got lucky in this series. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles. Klay Thompson would end up tearing his ACL. You can't choose what team you play and who gets hurt. None of the injuries were intentional, and they were all just by luck. Toronto just played the team in front of them, and they ended up winning the 2019 NBA Finals in 6 games by a score of 114 to 110. This NBA team was built around role players and star power, and it turned out to be one of the greatest NBA teams ever assembled. And to this day, I believe that even if the Warriors were full strength, Toronto Raptors would still win the 2019 NBA championship. A lot of people may wonder what happened after the season and why didn't the Toronto Raptors become a dynasty. And if you remember, I told you Kawhi Leonard was on an expiring contract. It's because he left. After 1 season in Toronto, Kawhi Leonard went home to LA to play for the Clippers. The Toronto Raptors would become a very mediocre team in the Eastern Conference to where they remain this day. But to this day, they still wear the badge of being 2019 NBA champions.